Good morning. I am Janina Wright, a member of our Board of Trustees of the Tahoma UU congregation. As we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from occupied Puyallup ancestral land. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. We welcome all who are joining us with a longing for community, the hope for peace, and who are seeking justice. We are a diverse congregation which encourages each one who comes through our doors to find their own truth and belief. We invite all to join us in a search for meaning and community, guided by reason, respect for each other, and by love. Following worship service online today, we have online and in-person opportunities to connect in community. Immediately following our worship service, you can join us for social time in Zoom meeting. We'll paste that link at the end of the worship service, or you can find it via the church calendar. This is the time where we used to have coffee together, and so think of it as our virtual coffee hour, and I will be there as our host today, and so I look forward to seeing anyone there. Or at noon, you can join us for social time in person at Wapato Park. On Saturday, October 30th, we'll be hosting Trunk or Treat in the church parking lot. We will have a costume parade, and kids will be able to trunk or treat, going from car to receive Halloween goodies. Adults, this means we need you too to bring and share commercially packaged treats from the rear of your vehicles. There will be prizes for the spookiest, the most creative, and the funniest decorations. Register online via Nancy Slocum's Sign Up Genius link in our e-news. We will be following our outdoor gathering guidelines for the fun event. If there are children who cannot participate, please let Nancy Slocum know so we can arrange to deliver a treat bag just to your door. Next Sunday, October 24th, is Reverend Joe's last Sunday with us as sabbatical minister. And we hope you'll join us to thank him and for his message, the Sabbatical Minister's Sabbatical. The following Sunday, October 31st, we welcome Reverend Linda back as she returns from her sabbatical and for her message with an intriguing title, Perambulations, Poetry, and People. Today, we warmly welcome Reverend Jim Anderson, one of our community-affiliated ministers, to our online pulpit with his message, Sitting on the Steps. Reverend Jim's message will reflect on relationships with both friends who have physical homes as well as some who don't have a home. As we hear Reverend Jim's reflections today and consider how we can live today's message in the world, there are two opportunities to take action that we want to highlight. First is a successful program that is happening right now in our church parking lot. TUUC is one of two safe parking sites in the city of Tacoma. We provide those living in their vehicles a safe space to park overnight, very basic sanitation, and a connection to services that will help them find more stable housing. Our congregation, you, voted nearly unanimously to participate in the Tacoma-Pierce County Safe Parking Pilot Program. A small team of volunteers jump-started the TUUC program and continues to keep it going strong. We are so grateful, and this is bolded, just so you know, we are so grateful for the hard work and commitment of these folks. And we need more volunteers to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes a week working in pairs to keep the parking lot trash-free and the porta potty and hand washing station sanitary and supplied with needed paper products, water, and hand soap. This not only supports our guests, it is a gift to our neighbors. If you can't imagine a weekly commitment, consider being a substitute to allow weekly volunteers some time off. This is your chance to walk the talk of UU values. The Safe Parking team looks forward to hearing from you, and you can find the email address in the chat or in the e-news. Please contact us at tuuchousing@gmail.com. Again, I will post this in the chat. The second opportunity is a new program offered by the Social Justice Committee beginning in November. The Social Justice Discussion and Capital Action Group will spend 2 months each on 5 social justice issues, beginning in November with housing justice as the first issue. The group will learn through reading and discussing the book Evicted: Poverty and Profit in the American City by Matthew Desmond in November, and then take action, again capitalized, to support our local homeless community in December. For more details, including how to obtain a copy of the book from the social justice team, as well as other topics to be explored, see the e-news or the church calendar. I do know by reading it that we've got about 14 free copies available from the library of the first book. In addition to these 2 opportunities supporting housing justice, the e-news regularly includes other program opportunities like a Homelessness 101, which is honestly one of my favorite things in the e-news that I read, program offered by Pierce FaithWorks that is a good starting place for those interested in working with our unhoused neighbors, as well as for people already engaged in this work. It also helps to dispel some common misunderstood facts about homelessness. Reverend Joe recently took this program and highly recommends it to others. Links for all our programs, hang on with me, I know it's long, but thank you for sticking with me. Links for all our other programs can be found in our weekly e-news or our church calendar. This week, you can learn about the Covenant group that met recently at the church using the small group gathering guidelines and highlights on what's happening at the church to prepare for coming together. This can be found both in the e-news and the church website. Friends, please read through your e-news when it arrives to your inbox each week. Think of it as your weekly subscription, part of your weekly subscription to TUUC. It is the primary channel for you to stay connected and informed on all that is happening in our congregation. Our staff works really, really hard to assure your e-news contains all the news and information you ask for and expect. So thank you. And if you aren't receiving that and would like to know how to receive it, go to our website, which I will post in the chat. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is a free entry form where you can enter your name and email address. I actually have multiple email addresses that I have the e-news go to, just so I don't miss anything that is shared that week. And finally, thank you too for your ongoing financial support to our congregation. That makes all of this possible. Our programs, our staff who create and facilitate the programs, and the connections that we make through our congregation. Now, let us join together in worship.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Reverend Jim Anderson with the opening words. So I'm thinking, what gives you the power to make changes, to ask hard questions, to leap into the churning waters, and take your life's journey through swamps and deserts, abundant forests, and soft beaches. It is empowering and supportive relationships.
At this time, I'd like you to join with us in lighting a chalice in your home as Reverend Joe lights the chalice in our sanctuary. Please join me in the chalice lighting words that should be published in the chat. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and the holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come.
Hearts wide open, friends. Good morning. It's time for our time for all ages. And in reflecting on today's topic and theme, cultivating relationships, I wanted to turn to one of the mightiest tomes on relationships, The House at Pooh Corner. And in chapter 8, in which Piglet does a very grand thing. Halfway between Pooh's house and Piglet's house was a thoughtful spot where they met sometimes when they had decided to go and see each other. And as it was warm and out of the wind, they would sit down there for a little and wonder what they would do now that they had seen each other. One day, when they had decided not to do anything, Pooh made up a verse about it so that everybody should know what the place was for. This warm and sunny spot belongs to Pooh, and here he wonders what he's going to do. Oh, bother, I forgot. It's Piglet's too. Now, one autumn morning, when the wind had blown all the leaves off the trees at night and was trying to blow the branches off, Pooh and Piglet were sitting in the thoughtful spot and wondering. What I think, said Pooh, is I think we'll go to Pooh Corner and see Eeyore, because perhaps his house has been blown down again, and perhaps he'd like us to help rebuild it. What I think, said Piglet, is I think we'll go and see Christopher Robin, only he won't be there, so we can't. Let's go and see everybody, said Pooh, because when you've been walking in the wind for miles and you suddenly go into somebody's house and he says, hello, Pooh, you're just in time for a little smackerel of something, and you are, that is what I call a friendly day. Piglet thought they ought to have a reason for going to see everybody, like looking for Small the beetle, or organizing an exposition. If Pooh could think of something, and Pooh could. We'll go because it's Thursday, he said, and we'll go to wish everybody a very happy Thursday. Come on, Piglet. They got up, and when Piglet had to sit down again because he didn't know how strong the wind was, and after he'd been helped up by Pooh, they started off. They went to Pooh's house first, And luckily, Pooh was at home just as they got there. So he asked them in and they had some treats. And then they went on to Kanga's house, holding on to each other and shouting in the loud wind, "Isn't it?" And "What?" And "I can't hear." By the time they got to Kanga's house, they were so buffeted that they stayed to lunch. Just at first, it seemed rather cold outside afterwards, so they pushed on to Rabbits as quickly as they could. "We've come to wish you a very happy Thursday," said Pooh, when he had gone in and out once or twice just to make sure that he could get out again. "Why, what's going to happen on Thursday?" asked Rabbit. And when Pooh had explained, and Rabbit, whose life was made up of important things, said, "Oh, I thought you'd really come about something." Then they sat down for a while. And by, Pooh and Piglet went on again. The wind was behind them now, so they didn't have to shout. "Rabbit's clever," said Pooh thoughtfully. "Yes," Piglet said, "Rabbit's clever. And he has brain." "Yes," said Piglet, "Rabbit has brain." There was a long silence. "I suppose," said Pooh, "that's why he never understands anything." And that, friends, is the end of our time for all ages.
I'd like to invite you to a time of generosity. I want to thank all of you for supporting with your financial gifts the work of this congregation. Thank you for your consideration to support our church during this unprecedented time apart. You may follow the link on the following slide or click the link in the chat or text your donation to contribute your support for our church members and staff to keep our congregation connected in a new and dynamic ways. Every little bit helps, and while we're physically apart, our gifts are stronger together. Please join me in the dedication of the offering. We dedicate ourselves and our offering to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
So within the often mysterious arms of our spiritual community, we share our joys and our triumphs, our sorrows and our broken places. In this circle of care, we make space for the complexity of life, the myriad experiences that bless and break our hearts. The truth of human experience dictates that on any given day, we each come to the table with hearts and homes in different places. And gathering together grows courage. In ourselves and in others, it's a small thing, but right now, it's an important thing. Now, great sources of wisdom remind us that just because you cannot stem the tide of all suffering, all hate, all lives discarded to the sidewalk, you can still do the right thing in small gestures over and over. These things add up. Your one thing and my one thing, his one thing, their one thing, her one thing. These things add up over and over. And together they become a big thing. So don't be alone right now. Any liberation, all transformation is a collective liberation a collective transformation. My freedom, my life, my transformation is bound with yours and yours with mine inextricably. So let's together cast our lots doing this big thing, bending the moral arc of the universe towards justice and compassion. So this month's sermonic theme is the power of relationships. And given this congregation's commitment to the safe parking projects for families living in their cars, Reverend Joe suggested that I talk about our relationship with people who are experiencing homelessness. So given that, I want to talk about the kind of relationship that has the power to help people clarify the meaning and purpose in their life and transform their lives. These are a specific set of relational parameters that optimize the chance that the relationship will be helpful. And you will quickly conclude that much of what I'm saying applies to everyone, not just people experiencing homelessness. And that's because, of course, people experiencing homelessness are people, first, who happen to not currently have a stable place to live. Now, when I used to train therapists, I had what I called the test that each person had to pass with their client in order to have credibility and to be effective. They needed to be willing to accept a broad range of strange or dysfunctional behaviors without being judgmental and without being caught up in the tangled web of dysfunction themselves. They need to always treat the client with respect and unconditional regard, no matter how difficult or unsavory. They needed to always hand the client's life and power back to them, leaving the client's internal locus of control intact. And of course, no meaningful relationship is effective without trust, which emerges best when the helping professional is authentic and congruent, and as is compassionately and fearlessly honest as is realistically possible. And of course, clear and consistent boundaries are essential, as is the management of your own internalized stereotypes about race, economic status, gender, sexual identity, age, able-bodiedness, and a whole host of other characteristics that make us different from each other. Now, this is a long list, and it usually took about a year of formation for counseling interns to develop in each of these areas. Today, we have 15 minutes. So I'm only going to focus on the 3 areas that have special relevance to being involved with a person who's experiencing homelessness or simply trying to sort out some issues in their lives. Those areas of discussion are the internal locus of control, respect, and trust. So let's start with the internal locus of control and how to help people change. Now, people don't generally change because they are threatened, warned, or coerced. For instance, many years ago, the family intervention was the preferred strategy for confronting people with alcohol and drug addiction and forcing them into treatment. Now, it certainly helped massage the anxiety and assumptions of family members, but over time, treatment professionals found that it didn't work. What therapists found and research has confirmed is that the concepts of meeting a person where they are, respecting the goals they set for themselves, leaving their life choices in their hands and walking together with them seem to be a better approach. Now, these strategies are best found in the research-based strategies of motivational interviewing, which is a good topic to Google. Motivational interviewing. Now, people don't behave in destructive ways because they decide to, and they don't behave effectively just because you tell them they should. Now, you combine a childhood filled with abuse and neglect, learning disabilities, a family propensity for chemical dependency or mental health issues, and by 10 years old, the die is cast for that person to have a high likelihood of becoming homeless. So given all this, it's helpful to let go of your expectations for change, manage your own anxiety, and simply walk alongside the person as they move towards a life that is meaningful for them and not necessarily for you. You know, Alan Deutschman comments in his book, Change or Die, that the first step in changing your life is to form a relationship with someone who inspires you and sustains hope and affirms and respects your own control over your own life. Now, an important note. The helpful person characteristics I'm describing are not for everyone. Just as not everyone has the specific personal and genetically informed skill set to be a good accountant, to be a heavy equipment operator or a mechanic, to be a real estate appraiser. Not everyone has the skill set and personality also to engage someone in a complex set of needs. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not certain that the person he's describing is me, then celebrate your awareness. There's a reason the Myers-Briggs personality inventory has 16 different personality types. However, regardless of what you bring to the table, one of the most important relational aspects is being able to treat the person in front of you with respect. However, respect isn't as easy as it seems. In dealing with people who are chronically without a home because of psychiatric disorders or chemical dependencies, or a life lived with one bad decision after another, it is often difficult to maintain a genuine feeling of empathy and respect. It isn't always a warm and fuzzy situation. It's often sad and painful and confusing. And it's often easy to put all the blame for that person's life situation on them. And if the person is angry or challenging, respect is often replaced with your own anger and negative assumptions. So at our meal sites at Catholic Community Services and our shelters, I asked our security staff to be like a Sunday morning greeter at church. I asked them to generally welcome everybody onto the block where we had our services. And when they saw a particularly troublesome person, I encouraged them to go out of their way to very thoughtfully look the person in the eye, say hi, and if appropriate, shake their hand. They would make a connection based on respect, not fear or threats. And many times, later, when that person may start to become disruptive, the staff person was in a position to say, hey, Jack, tell me what's going on. And then to listen and not get caught up in a power struggle or defending their ego, just listen. In the early days of my work at Catholic Community Services as a UU community minister, the short version of our mission statement was to be a Christ-like presence in troubled situations, a calm, caring presence grounded in the principles of love, compassion, and respect. It could also be a Buddha-like presence, or a Lao Tzu-like presence, or a Reverend Linda or Reverend Joe-like presence. It's what worked. Now, on a practical note also, if you talk to somebody disrespectfully and attack their internal locus of control and demand that they do what you say, you not only damage the relationship, but you also set up unnecessary and persistent resistance to any kind of change. People will often fight to the death to protect their sense of respect and life control, even if in the end, it's not in their best interest. And yet another practical observation. You know, this sermon is about the caring and compassionate side of human interactions that are appropriate for 80 to 90% of the people you engage every day. However, as you all know well, there are mean and predatory people out there who have no interest in growth and transformation and often view others as objects for their manipulation and exploitation. And that is a whole different sermon. Nurturing their internal locus of control can be dangerous. So those interactions often require staying respectful and matter of fact, but not necessarily friendly, setting some clear limits and consequences, leaving the room, and calling 911. Okay, so let's talk about trust. Trust is all wrapped up with your ability to be authentic and congruent, accountable, and respectful. For many people living without a home, their radar is on high for people who don't walk their talk, who look at a person without a home through negative, unexamined stereotypes and an attitude of insincerity and superiority. For many people on the street, being in a relationship has meant being discriminated against, abused, and betrayed. And I found that for many people chronically on the street, it can take years to begin to trust another person. For many of the more long-term people, the saving grace in their life can be that there is someone who is well integrated, individuated, and differentiated, who is willing to simply be in a thoughtful long-term relationship with them and is willing to wait for trust to evolve. For many, the relationship is much like that found in a hospice setting, because for many people, sadly, this is as good as it's going to get. Now, I want to give a balanced picture of people without a home. I've been describing the more difficult situations. However, I've experienced a large number of people living in cars and shelters who are simply good people trying to figure out what to do with their life. I remember one man who had gotten pneumonia. He was hospitalized for a week with no sick leave and no health insurance, and he lost his job. And then he lost his apartment, and then he lost his car. And he ended up actually leaning up against a post in the parking lot at Catholic Community Services, waiting for a meal at the hospitality kitchen. So he and I had a long conversation. He was a good man who had lost everything, and he wasn't sure about what to do next. And there was an unemployed neighbor of mine who lost his housing when the house he was living in with a relative was sold. And he ended up at our shelter also. And he took a 6-month training program in building maintenance and then landed a job with a large apartment complex. And you know, many of our guests volunteer daily, serving food and helping with unloading the truck and with cleanup. It gives them meaning and purpose while they sort out their life. So there's a community of people out there helping each other through a difficult time. So ultimately, as with all people, it's essential to shake loose the stereotypes and all the descriptions that I've just given. Engage the person in front of you as a separate and complete human being. You will only know who they are by getting to know who they are. So there you have it. Leave the internal locus of control intact. Always treat the person with genuine respect. Take time to let your trust emerge. Be clear about your boundaries. Stay open to the mystery of transformation. And Google motivational interviewing. And that is your relational test. There's power in these characteristics. When people are listening, are listened to in the context of this kind of relationship, they begin to tell their story and define who they want to be. And their sense of value begins to increase and their lives begin to change. This is a powerful relationship. Think about how it feels if you have someone who truly listens to you without any judgment or expectations and doesn't offer any helpful life suggestions unless you ask. And they just listen with friendly curiosity and appreciation. See, all of us have an internal locus of control that needs to be valued. All of us live best in relationships where we're respected and trusted. Our relationships with each other are part of something larger. We are all combined one giant organism. You know, not unlike a terrestrial jellyfish or a colony of ants with opposable thumbs. We survive because we live out our biological, spiritual, and genetic oneness as human beings together. And despite what we've come to believe in our individualistic society, when we sincerely reach out and touch someone's hand and look them in the eye and say hello, we become part of the human organism. We are doing the little things that become the big thing and begin to gently bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice and compassion. And we become part of the interdependent web of humanity. And then, truly, we can sing, "From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live." Thank you.
Oh, amen, Brother Jim. Thank you for your lived experience and observations, perspectives, and
You're welcome.
reverence for our neighbors and friends experiencing houselessness. And friends, now is the time for us to set our intention for the week. So I invite you to take a deep breath. Come to center with what is moving in your mind and heart as you set an intention for the week ahead based on all that's been shared here this morning.
Closing words. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other, and our service to each other and to the world. The flame of our chalice burns steady in our hearts. We each have gifts that make a difference in the world or in the life of one person. So in this coming week, may you do at least one thing to reach out to another person, to begin to affirm a caring relationship, to welcome the stranger, to do the work of compassion, to do all the little things that become the big thing, and to live out the power of our relationships. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. And just as we're getting ready to extinguish our flame, I want to invite those of you who might be willing to help us with this service in the coming weeks to consider becoming a chat chaplain. Connect with the office or send an email if you're interested in participating in that way. And with that, please join Reverend Joe with the extinguishing of the chalice as we read the words in the chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we hold in our hearts until we are together again.
Friends, let us sing our closing song. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.